I know you play the guitar. You're really into music. How would you describe the relationship, if any, between your musical creativity and your literary interests, writing abilities, and so on?
Well, I'm inspired a lot by music. Music is my life, basically. It's a key component of my life. Usually when I come home, the first thing I do is I run over to the iTunes and just hit shuffle or hit play, anything, just to get some sound going in the room. And I'm really inspired by lyrics too. So, that's the key proponent of me when I'm listening to a song. I'm listening to the lyrics and listening, for inspiration and stuff. And it's nice when you can find something in somebody else's work, for instance, a book or a song, somebody else's lyrics, that you can also apply to your own life. I think it's really interesting, and how people can connect that way, through music or through literature.
Do you listen to music while you're writing?
I do, yes. It kind of depends on what I'm writing about or what the topic is. For this essay, since it was a little less rigorous, I guess, I didn't have to do too much research on it. I pretty much just put on whatever I think it was Paramore or Tegan and Sarah, something like that, whatever upbeat stuff I'd been listening to lately. When I'm writing a research paper or something that requires a bit more thinking, though, sometimes I'll put on either soundtrack music, something with no lyrics, or kind of more low-key, softer acoustic type music, so that I can think more. But I need to have some kind of ambient sound in the background in order to really get thinking.
So you said you were listening to some upbeat music as you were writing this essay on Sonozaki lovers?
Right.
Why is that? There's a contrast to the tragedy of love, or?
It's, I don't know, I think it's just because, I think it's kind of the effect of, I don't know if you experience this ever, but if you're driving in the car and a song comes on the radio or on your CD, whatever, that you're really into, you have a tendency to drive faster if you're really into it. At least I do. Maybe this is a problem, but for me, I'm easier to write better and write faster if I'm listening to something that I enjoy, or that keeps me upbeat. Not necessarily that the topic I'm writing about is upbeat, but it keeps me motivated. So.
Now, between Ohatsu, which you played for our dramatic readings,
right.
and Kumiko, or any of the characters in these two particular works, who do you identify with the most?
Ohatsu and Kumiko. That's a tough one. Because I think I don't know if I could strongly identify with either of them, but I think that I can take elements from both of them and make an integrated, I'd maybe integrate them into my personality, because Ohatsu, her basically unwavering loyalty and devotion to Tokubei, I'd like to think that I have that too in my relationships, friendship and otherwise, that I do everything in my power for that person and to make them happy and to make us happy. But then also I'd like to think that I'm kind of more like the strong, independent woman like Kumiko. She was the sole provider for the family at the time, and she had a full-time job as she was a publisher or editor. I can't remember exactly, but so I'd like to think that I kind of borrow that element too. As far as the rest of, as the book goes on, I'm learning, as far as the rest of her personality, I think we differ quite a bit. But yeah, up until this point, I'd say I borrow that from her.
Now I think you said earlier in a different conversation you enjoy reading Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. What do you think is the appeal of Murakami's work, and why is he so popular, you think, among non-Japanese audience?
Well, he's an easy writer to understand. It's an easy read, I think, in terms of vocabulary and syntax, whatever. But there are so many levels that he can be taken at. If you want a quick, easy read, you can go to Murakami. If you want a more in-depth read, you can also go to Murakami, because his writing works on so many different levels. The Wind-Up Bird Chronicles, it's kind of this is actually one of the stranger books I've read by him, and I've only read Norwegian Wood. That was the only other one I've read, but it's almost like a stream of consciousness, kind of, and there's a lot of like dreamlike sequences, it seems. So it's easy to just kind of read those and then brush them off and be like, okay, you know, that was interesting, that was fun. But then if you delve deeper into it, it's also, you know, there's so much working on a deeper level as well in his writing, and that's what's appealing to me.
Are there any writers besides Murakami that you like among Japanese writers?
I haven't had too much exposure outside of the world of like manga with actual like Japanese literature. We had to read what's her name? Is it Yoshimoto Banana?
Yoshimoto Banana, yeah.
We read her
whose father is my dissertation topic.
Oh, yeah, we read her short story Kitchen last year for Satomi's literature class, and that was also a fun book to read. But other than that, I haven't had too much exposure with Japanese authors.
What about manga? I mean, you mentioned you like to read manga.
Yeah, I used to read it all the time. I haven't been keeping up lately. But
what are some of your favorites?
My favorite probably was the series Mars. It's kind of like a high school, you know, romance tale or whatever. The boy is a bad boy and the girl is kind of this, you know, goody two-shoes or whatever, but somehow they fall in love. But what really got me was kind of like, number one, the art. The art is fantastic. And I can't remember the author's name. Fujimiya something, I think. But her artwork is fantastic, and the story is believable, which a lot of times in manga and in anime you get these kind of out of this world tales, you know, fantasy and stuff like that, but hers is more down to earth and more realistic, and I liked that. And it was more serious than any kind of like American comic that I'd had exposure to. I'm not a huge fan of American comics, but
what's the name of this
Mars
manga again?
Yeah.
M-A-R-S?
M-A-R-S, yeah.
Okay.
She took it from the Greek god Mars, because she compares him to the boy character.
The God of War?
Yeah, the God of War.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting manga.
Now, what kind of advice would you give to people who are struggling with their writing? How can people start to become better writers or enjoy the process of writing?
Well, writing is definitely not for everyone. I know some people have weaknesses and strengths, and for me, fortunately, writing is a strength. But in terms of just enjoying what you're writing and not feeling like you're being punished or, you know, drugged through it, I'd say you really have to get interested in what you're writing about, and that doesn't mean that you have to go out and you know, completely devote yourself to, like, you know, classic Japanese tales or, you know, whatever your topic may be, but just to have a little bit of interest and a little bit of background in what you're writing, I think would greatly help the piece. If you go in cold and you have no idea what you're writing about and don't know where to start, then I think that's definitely the way to go. Just get a little information, get some interest in it.
Cool. Thank you, Michelle Johnson. Thanks a lot.